Good afternoon, and welcome to Proclaiming Our Voices Writer Series at the Newsome House. We're here today with author George Addison Jr., and we're going to get to know him a lot better and learn more about his book, Moments in the Shadow of Greatness, Volume 1. So welcome to the Newsome House.
Thank you for welcoming me. Newport News is sort of like a return to home for me. My family growing up used to live on 30th and Marshall.
Okay.
I used to be waking by the drums of Huntington.
Oh,
Schools all the morning,
wonderful.
And we moved to Hampton, and I graduated from Hampton High in '73. So,
Okay. My alma mater as well.
Homecoming.
So welcome home.
Thank you very much.
So, okay, you're from here. So before we really get into the book, tell us a little bit about yourself and your journey after leaving Hampton.
Well, I graduated, like I said, in '73, and at the time, well, this area is so military laden. My stepfather was in the military, and I went directly from high school into the Army, and went to Korea. Overseas. I had a penchant for wanting to go overseas and learn martial arts and further my painting or whatever, and just experience life on a broader scale. And Bruce Lee was one of my idols, so I just had to get to overseas so I could jump over buildings and all that stuff. And I got there and found out the buildings were only 4 feet, 5 feet high. So, it took me on a journey where I was able to cultivate a career in photography and videography and painting. They used to always request that I do paintings for like Black History Month, drawings, etchings, all kind of things. So I did that for a while, and from that I migrated into journalism for the Department of Defense, and worked with them doing public affairs, writing, editing for their publications, and I did freelancing for some outside publications as well. When I got out initially in '75, I became a journalist working for ABC, CBS, NBC, that type of thing.
Oh, wow.
So so my experience in Miami was sort of like a springboard for me to get into broadcasting, and from broadcasting, a lot of special event marketing. When I was Department of Defense, I did opening ceremonies for the '84 Olympics, soccer championship, and that was one of the times I think it was the first time I met Ali, because he used to live in an estate across from where I was working at. And so it just, all the things that happened to me seemed to be what they were supposed to be. I didn't know it was a roadmap of any sorts, but it turned out to be that a lot of the places I was and a lot of people I met kind of led me to where I am now, including when I got in '75 and came back here and then wound up meeting Jessie Rattley. And so, I was just open for any opportunities to do something, learn something new and something different. And pretty much hadn't gotten off that course. As a result, it's led me to meet a lot of people who are well known, as well as those some that aren't, but are doing great things. And this book is my homage to them, to give thanks and tribute for what they've sacrificed and what they did as far as opening doors for people and allowing us to all enjoy more fruitful careers now than were available in the '60s and '70s.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I had always envisioned myself just being an artist. I studied under Alvin Mann when he was teaching over at Hampton. He was Hampton High School. He was a graduate from Hampton University. And
I remember Coach Mann.
Yeah,
you're bringing back a lot of memories.
Yeah. He was my guy. Him and John Scott, who used to do the jazz festival. So he was my guy, and he had me in there a lot, so I would stay out of trouble. Because I was one of those people, I just didn't really see a need to be there. I just said, well, hey, I don't want to learn this, I don't want to learn that. And he says, come on, you're going to learn everything, but you can come to my class. And so between him and John Scott, they opened my mind up some different options and stuff. Scott exposed me to Shakespeare and a lot of dramatic stuff. And Alvin Mann expressed a desire for me to learn more about my craft as far as painting. And as a result, there's a mural that's hanging in Coach Smith's office that's been there for over 40 years of a black Christ walking across the water, and it's on Masonite. And I've seen people fight over that mural trying to get control of it. Even my mother lost the battle to get that
Oh, wow.
so Coach Smith still has it in his office today. You know, I'd come here last year trying to get a chance to hook up with him, but COVID was running rapid, so we still haven't been able to connect. But they sent me pictures so that I can include in my portfolio as far as documenting that work. So, you know, all my beginnings pretty much here in Hampton. Even though I met a lot of great and interesting people, it's the folks here who fought for me to kind of get on the right path that led me to where I am.
Oh, that's amazing. And that is so inspirational, especially for our youth today and our artists, because the Newsome House has spaces for artists, and we bring a lot of different artists into the building.
Mm-hmm.
We definitely try our best to encourage our younger artists and love to talk to people who can tell their story to help them. So that's amazing. That's wonderful.
Yeah, and you know, I remember when I was younger, around 13 to 15, I was part of an art society from downtown Hampton. These ladies put me in it, and I used to go to Hampton University, and Dr. Gilmore was there, and he would have me and a couple of the younger African Americans learning about the history of the campus and how to do our artwork to express our story and our vision. And it just, you know, those things seemed awe-inspiring at the time because of such a young fella. And, you know, this place, Hampton University, which was Hampton Institute at the time, has such a legacy laden with great things that, you know, we really enjoyed our time there. And then after some years and after going into the military, I said, well, I'm going to put art on the back burner because it appears that everybody's only successful when they're gone. And I didn't want to expedite that, so I said, okay, I'm going to go ahead and look at law and photography and all these other things. And that's what I wound up doing, going to school for pre-law and photojournalism. And you know, I seem now to anchored myself to those careers in communications and to still art, you know, still a big influence in my life. And we're trying to locate some lost artwork that was dedicated to Hampton University about 40 years ago that I did, 2 huge murals with religious themes. And Richard Press and some others have been trying to help me locate this work. And I'm trying to do so to add it to my portfolio to document it digitally, because back then we didn't have digital cameras and the likes, and it was, you just never really thought about documenting it in that way. But I wanted to add it back into the portfolio with the work that's like at Hampton as well. So, you know, I'll be back here a couple more times as we try to research this thing and locate those works. Yeah.
Wonderful. And that's another part of the story that we tell our youth, that your creativity as an artist can be used in so many ways. So don't close your horizons to different opportunities, because your gift can lead you into so many ways. And
well, when I talk to young people, I explain to them the importance of never saying no when someone offers you an opportunity just because you don't think you can use it at the time or you're interested in it. Had I been the kind of person that when people came to me and suggested something and I said no, I probably would still be at the starting block. You know, because those opportunities open up new doors, and they keep opening up doors, and they keep expanding your world to where you come across where one day, you know, you're dealing with presidents and ambassadors or whatever the case may be, because you had gone that path.
Right.
And so young people, I always tell them, I says, you have more control within yourself to create the destiny and the future you want if you open yourself up. And, you know, I think a lot of them do that.
Yes. So we've learned about what inspired you to write the book, but tell us a little bit about it.
Well, the book contains a narrative about my journey, some of the stuff we touched base on, some of the things that have impacted me as it relates to growing up as a youngster, encountering the experience of gangs and drugs and, you know, abuse, and a lot of the stuff that my personal life touched, and how these people that I've come across who were famous approached it and taught me lessons that I could learn for myself to better myself, and to also acknowledge and appreciate their legacy and the fact that they took time and care to point these things out. Some obvious, some not so obvious. But without those lessons learned, again, you know, I would not have had the richness in my life that I've had. And so that's pretty much what the book is about. It's about kids understanding and adults understanding that you have more control than you think you have. Because we've had people who have succeeded in spite of segregation. We've had people become billionaires and millionaires in spite of segregation and racism throughout times, from Civil War days, from the Revolutionary, from whatever. And we can't just think that what we see all the time in front of us is who we are and what we're about.
That's right. That's right. So tell me, what was it like to meet Muhammad Ali?
The greatest.
The greatest.
Always will be the greatest. And, I tell a story in the book about when I first interviewed Ali. I was a news director on the South Beach in Miami. And this was it could have been the first one, maybe it was the second one, because I met him a total of 3-4 times. But I went to interview Ali, and I think it was my first interview with him. And I was all excited about it because I grew up, him, Bruce Lee, were my idols growing up. Gordon Parks was my other idol growing up, people that I could look at who were doing great things. And Ali always had a good place in my heart because of what he went through with the draft, what he went through with trying to survive after the draft and them taking his title away, and then, failing to reclaim it when he fought Joe Frazier the first time. And so he had a special place in my heart, and when he lost that fight, I cried like so many other African Americans because we saw that as a defeat for our people, because he was the people's champ.
Right.
And so, but even in defeat, he was such a gracious guy, and he told folks he even had lessons to learn. And so when you have somebody who can be humble and be honest and sincere and still care about those other than themselves, they're always a great model to model yourself. And that doesn't mean that they're perfect, because none of us are, but it means that they give you benchmarks in your life that you can learn from and grow from. And he was no exception. When I met him the first time in Miami at DuPont Plaza Hotel, which was a huge luxurious hotel at the time, he was a little nervous. I was nervous, he was nervous. And so, I didn't think about the fact that he would be nervous because I'd been accustomed to seeing him on TV with Howard Cosell and talking stuff and, doing all this. So, this is what you think you might get right off the bat. But he was cautious, and we did sort of like a feeling out to where I got a sense of what it was he was going to offer. And he had a sense of what it was I wanted in the interview, because he was a showman. And nothing was uncalculated as related to media exposure of any sort. So, but he came across sincere and genuine with me, and very forthright and honest. And he allowed me, from a journalist's perspective, to relax and feel like just a human being in the room with him having a conversation. And so that was great. That was a great situation. And we did the interview in his suite about 40 minutes, maybe 50 minutes, and he got a call to come down to the lobby, and because something was going on. So he told me to accompany him, and I went down to the lobby with him. And this little old white lady, she had to be about 80 to 90 years old, saw him and came running down the halls shouting, "Ali, Ali, Ali." And we looked at each other, and then she came up on him, and he just went on and hugged her and kissed her and just made her day. And she was just thrilled. And I said, this is magic. And witnessing it right then and there. And a lot of people who met Ali also had similar magical moments that he would do stuff. But after that moment, we continued to go down the hallway in the grand ballroom area, and I'll never forget the hotel manager came and says, there are thousands of people outside on the balcony, on the patio, after the patio balcony. And I said, wow, and we could hear them chanting. And so he said, will you please go out there and say something, because they weren't going to disperse. And so we go out, and this is during the time you have the Haitian flotilla coming here from Haiti, people getting in little boats and stuff and trying to make it to American shores. And we had all the Cubans, but now it's the Haitians' turns, and they weren't being received because of their skin color, the way that the Cubans had been. And they were really under a lot of duress because people were trying to force them out and do sorts of things like that. And Ali went out on the balcony, and when he went out there, it was like a huge resounding cheer. He was like their savior. He was like, actually, it seemed like he was the messiah of black people around the world. And that, getting caught up in that moment was tremendous, because they actually wound up heisting him up and passing him around, around the balcony area, and then brought him back to the balcony. And they were all just shouting Ali was like thunderous. And those moments, you never expect them. They get sprung on you, and you're like, whoa, what have I just witnessed? And what you just witnessed was someone who went out his way to further inspire, encourage, and give them hope that they were going to be okay as a people coming into America. And that was just such a beautiful moment for me. It just overwhelmed and overpowered me. And I just said, you know what? If we just had more Alis, we could make the changes we needed to. But it was a great moment.
Oh, that's a beautiful story. Oh my goodness. And you took me all the way there. I felt like I was there for a moment myself. And so you also mentioned, who's also in the book, Jessie Rattley,
Yeah.
The first African American mayor of Newport News.
Right.
How was it meeting her?
Oh man, I've always told people that she's one of the first dynamic, powerful Amazons I ever met. Okay, because she really was for the people and about the people, and she's one of those individuals that you could easily envision seeing her put her earrings in her pocketbook and her Vaseline on her
That's right. That's right.
and get ready to do you up, because she was not intimidated. And she had moments. I had been with her where she had moments where you could see the humanness in her, and she wished she hadn't had to endure certain situations that way. But my experience with her was, I tell people I don't even really know how we met. All I remember is that it was at some political event here in Newport News, because I had just returned from North Carolina. I hadn't too long gotten out of the military the first time in '75 after Vietnam had stopped fighting, and so I was coming back home. My mother was still residing here at the time, and so I was coming back home. And I had won these acknowledgments and awards as a photographer and so forth in the military. And so I ran into her and we got to talking about stuff, about what she needed and stuff. And since I wasn't bringing gobs of money, she said, well, what else we got? And I was a young guy. I think I was probably just 21 or 2, somewhere like that. I was pretty young at the time. And I told her, I said, well, whatever you need, because I heard her speak at a political event and she just caught my imagination. We're talking, 70s, you still did not see a lot of blacks out speaking against the system and demanding that we be treated just and fairly. And here was this woman that I put in the vein of Shirley Chisholm and Barbara Jordan, and was every sense of that. And she just didn't care. And so whatever it took, you wanted to be a part of that, you wanted to help her. And as I tell people in the book, it didn't matter if she said, get my shoes, my luggage, or whatever. I was going to do it because this was an Amazon. This was someone that was historic in nature and character. And I wanted to be a part of helping her make a reality for my people here in the city. So that's how we hooked up. Mm-hmm. And I spent time with her up until after she was making her unsuccessful bid against Thomas Downing. Okay. And that was really interesting because, as a black woman, she kind of like had the gall to want to do it. And then secondly, she wasn't going to be intimidated by the threats that they were going to do things to her because of her race.
Right. And
so I got to really witness on the inside a real gutsy, bring it to me kind of person, and man or woman. And to me, coming out of the military and the Vietnam experience, all that, it was just refreshing and encouraging that, we were on a mission in the 70s to make this place right for us. Mm-hmm. We're still continuing the mission today, but we have images, we have legacies, we have plans that either weren't taken to fruition or can be revived to do things to make sure that our people today understand we don't have to have a George Floyd. We don't have to have Breonna Taylor. We don't have to have those events happen to claim our destiny and to make people respect us for who we are and the character that we have, like Martin Luther King wanted us to have. So we just have to understand that we can't give up.
That's right.
And that's really what it's all about.
Very inspirational. So we don't want to give away the entire book, but I do want to know or have you talk about why it was so important to you to include people from this area.
Well, it was important because people in this area were dying and struggling and fighting to just get the basics, to get things that were owed to them. Uh, the good thing about kids today, they truly didn't have to experience what it's like to be ignored in public venues and spaces and places, and to be told you couldn't go somewhere because of your color. And I came in on the tail end of that as a kid. And so, I tell people all the time, I says, at the time I was a young kid, I had to experience how the nation dealt with 5 assassinations. And so, you had Kennedy, Bobby and John, you had Martin, Malcolm, you had Medgar Evers, and then there were others as well. But they were huge personalities doing huge things in different parts of this country. And it just seemed like we were going to get it right as a nation. And when they took those flames, put those flames out of those individuals who were trying to do the best they could to bring this thing together for once and all, evil rose its ugly head and we wind up being set back. But I've learned, over the course of the years that nothing right or good comes easy. There's going to always be people that snuff something from you just as you think you have it in your grasp, and you have to reclaim yourself and your senses, and you have to continue to fight and endure. And a lot of the kids that I taught in schools and lectured to at colleges, including my own children, I tell them all the time, okay, this is your fight. I'm going on 67, and I've been at it since I was 18. And so you have to have leaders like myself that do 2 things. One, that continue to inspire, but then also know that it's time that they have to let go of the reins and allow young people to experience the experiences they need to get us to the other side. Some black leaders that I know just don't want to get out of the way. And we have to understand that we all have our time and our place. And if you're not going to be fighting the battle, then you can step aside, but you still can contribute to the strategies. You still can inspire. You can still motivate. You can use yourself as a historical reference for kids when it gets tough, that they can look at you and understand that this doesn't mean and define who they are, and that they won't be able to accomplish what you're setting out. I think we forget that, and it's not about personality. We get caught up now in all this personality, which brings nothing to the table. Because they're just people who happen to be worth a higher value. If the market was still open today, if the slave market was still open today, they would be bought at a higher value, But when you see people making lots of money, you have to understand that those people don't write the checks. And until we're writing the checks, what we can do in any context is limited. Now, all those people making those high dollars, if they did something collectively, then they can actually create something to write the checks.
Right.
And if we controlled our personal economies, like I think they say nowadays, a dollar stays in our community maybe once or twice, and 16 times in the average community.
Right.
Well, that's wealth that other people are getting that we're just throwing away.
Right.
So we have to realize that we are important, we have value, and if you have any doubt, just watch the commercials, watch the movies, and see who's selling all the products.
That's right. It's very clear. It's very clear. Mm-hmm.
So, it was important for me to come home and retrace this journey from my time with Ms. Rattley and others in this community that I'll be talking about down the road, that really were standard bearers, who really believed what they said. They weren't trying to give you a slogan or something to go out and shout and put on your t-shirt. They were trying to give you something to live by and to be nurtured by, and understand that it was the inner strength that was going to see you through.
That's right. That's right. Well, you have definitely turned your gifts and the talents that God has given you and used them in so many ways. It sounds like you've had the opportunity to live many lives in one. What's next?
Well, we just completed a documentary as a companion guide to the book, and we were approached by Prime to put it on Prime, but what we did was we already placed those on YouTube for people to look at before we redo them for Prime.
Okay.
The production, we'll redo the production and the values, raise them up a little bit more since they were interested. But what I was trying to do was get things out that shared the story and the legacies, and the reasons as to why I felt it was important to do what we're doing with the book series. It's the first of 6 books, so we're trying to get that done, working on volume 2 that should be out this time next year. We'll be releasing the digital version in about another month. They've already been done. The hard copy has already been done. So basically, we're just trying to get ourselves in a position to put this out there. We want to at least move 1,000 units in each state. That is so that we can donate at least 50,000 copies to our juvenile facilities and prisons to motivate and inspire folks. In another part-time life, I worked at the psychiatric facility in LaGrange, Kentucky, where they had the most violent and heinous criminals and committed some atrocities actually in their crimes. And that was for me to experience people on a different level. And I actually stayed there until it became too dangerous. And the Lord said, okay, twice, we don't need 3. You've learned what I want you to learn. You've been exposed to what you need to be exposed to, and now you come out. And that experience was to help me better understand how I could help people who had been incarcerated prepare to turn their lives around and to be a more positive contributory to society when they come out. Because these people aren't going anywhere. We have tons of people locked up who are innocent, have been innocent, as you see every time you turn around, and somebody been 20, 30, 40, 50 years of their life incarcerated for crimes they didn't do, primarily because of one main factor, that is they can't afford a defense. As money speaks in the judicial system. And then 2, because of who they are, what they look like. And so, there's a lot of important work still to be done. So I've joined in with a couple of organizations that distribute books in those prisons, and like I said, we're trying to get people to support that. They can go to GoFundMe, and it's encouraging words through stories, and they can look that up, and then they can make a donation to that, so that we can get these books to the kids, to the places where they're incarcerated, as well as urban schools where they are banning books left and right, and where they are not educating them and giving them the tools they need. They're surprised why so many kids are failing through NTI. It's because they never took time to come up with the proper curriculum to teach these kids, and they want to strap them to the laptop for 8 hours a day when they know that most people, including adults, can only take 20 minutes out of an hour of learning. So those kind of things I'm hoping to impact and continue on. It's just a different phase. I tell folks all the time, I'm not really retiring. My energy is being redirected by the Creator.
Okay, so I like that.
That's what we are.
So tell the people where they can purchase the book and learn more about you.
Well, they can always Google me, George L. Addison Jr., and it should pull up several sites on different things that I do. They can go on Google, Walmart, they can Google that. They can Google Amazon, Books a Million, Barnes and Noble. I mean, we're everywhere. Even overseas in UK, we found out that people are purchasing books overseas.
Oh, wonderful.
So we're doing that. Then I always mention this. Ali's brother is a friend of mine, Rahman Ali. He has a book out, Ali's Brother, and they can also Google that book, because I try to support us. It's not a competitive thing, because there's enough history to share and enough history that our people should want to learn so that they can survive. And so that's what I'm doing. I hope they can go ahead and go online and order the book. If they're really interested in a signed copy, then they can contact you, and they can purchase the book through Cash App and send their address, and I'll go ahead and send an autographed copy to them.
Okay, wonderful, wonderful.
Well, thank you very much again for having me here. Like I said, it's my homecoming. Fellow alumnus. Hey, you can't get no better than a crab, right?
That's right. You can't crush a crab. That's right. Well, it's definitely been my pleasure to interview you. Thank you so much for being with us today.
And I look forward to bringing you other volumes as we get them here at the showcase.
And we look forward to having you back. Definitely.
Thank you very much.
Well, it's been a wonderful day here at the Newsome House. Check us out, www.newsomehouse.org. Give us a call, 247-2360, or just come on and stop on by, 2803 Oak Avenue, and learn more about the Newsome House, Joseph Thomas Newsome, and the African American history of Newport News. We'll see you next time.